Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and today a legendary team from the past returns. Now these battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, the one and only Firestar, so many thanks for the battle submission. Now back in the day in 2022, Firestar created a team that took the Great League by storm. Medicham, Noctowl, and Diggersby. This was arguably the most popular Great League team for several seasons in a row. Now this season, with all three Pokemon getting buffed once again, Firestar decided to bring the team out of retirement and against all odds, managed to run it to legend. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, Firestar picks up a pretty nice lead Medicham into Shadow Bugbite Fortress. There are two better answers to Bugbite Fortress in the back, but Medicham will still be able to hold its own here. Fortress is going to strike first as it goes for the Sand Tomb. Sand Tomb connects, and there's a safe switch into Noctowl. Noctowl is immediately going to be answered with Licky Licky. Unfortunately, this matchup isn't the greatest for the Noctowl, but Noctowl is very, very bulky. Unfortunately, Noctowl doesn't have the greatest pacing anymore, but what it does have is an ability to survive a lot of rollouts and body slams, and hopefully burn the switch timer long enough for Medicham to re-hit the field of play. Licky Licky gonna go for another body slam. Noctowl able to hang on. Noctowl farms up, and there's the pivot back into Medicham. Medicham unleashing Dynamic Punch. Licky Licky no shields, and it gets KO'd. In the back is Togekiss, and this is looking pretty good. Medicham is up so much energy. There's energy stored on the Noctowl as well. The opponent ends up no shielding the Ice Punch. Oh, they end up catching the second Ice Punch onto the Bugbite Fortress. That is a very, very nice play, as Fortress is going to get a full farm down here of the Medicham. But the bad news for the opponent is that Fortress energy not going to go too far, as Diggersby is revealed as the final Pokemon. Diggersby is in such a commanding matchup. The Noctowl is pretty low, but the Noctowl does have a ton of stored energy as well. So everything looking good for Firestar in this game. Fire Punch does get the shield. Sand Tomb number 2 launched by the Fortress, and again a no shield from Diggersby. Diggersby holding on to those Protect Shields, over farming. There's a catch from the opponent as they catch Fire Punch onto Togekiss. However, this might end up just being to the opponent's detriment, as that sets up perfect farm down range for the Noctowl. Noctowl now very close to the back-to-back Sky Attacks, going for Sky Attack number 1. Opponent realizes there's just no hope, and that's going to be a Game 1 win with a 2-shield flex. We move to game number 2, and it's a strong lead for Firestar. Medicham into Stunfisk. Opponent safe switches into Shadow for Alligator, and that's going to be swiftly met with the Noctowl. This team is very, very strong into Unova Stunfisk. Medicham and Diggersby are going to do well there. The Stunfisk's only real target is the Noctowl, and Noctowl gets to avoid that matchup by being aligned onto Feraligatr. Firestar could even consider trying to either soft lose this matchup, so that way he doesn't end up giving the opponent shield advantage, or if he does give up shield advantage, then re-pivoting out of the matchup and preserving the Noctowl. It looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. He's going to be double shielding the Noctowl, knocking out Feraligatr, and the moment the Stunfisk comes in, re-pivoting into the Medicham. This allows him to save a Noctowl with energy for whatever's in the back. And there it is. There's the pivot. In comes Stunfisk, answered with the Medicham. If the opponent ever pivots out, then their fate is sealed, because Stunfisk is going to get aligned onto Diggersby, and they do pivot out. It's Gourgeist in the back. This is shades of the Noctowl Trevenant meta from back in the day. It's a different Grass Ghost, but it is still going to have a truly terrible time against Noctowl. Gourgeist unleashing Shadow Ball. Medicham gets knocked out, but in comes Noctowl. Noctowl gonna throw 4 Wing Attacks and the Sky Attack. This will easily be enough to secure the knockout. Gourgeist says no and uses the final shield. Gourgeist throws one more Incinerate, but it's paid a very heavy price. It's lost almost its entire health bar. Seed Bomb will take the knockout. In comes the Diggersby, but even with Diggersby taking a super effective Seed Bomb, it really feels like it's too little too late. In comes Stunfisk. Stunfisk will be able to land multiple Mud Bombs, but it's going to need to make it to 3 Mud Bombs if it wants to take the win. 2 Mud Bombs just simply will not cut it. Diggersby gonna go for the Scorching Sands. This is super effective damage, but Stunfisk is able to hang on. Now it's gonna be a race. Can Diggersby get the farm down? Mudshots did not do a lot here. The Stunfisk, will it make a move? It will not. Diggersby farms down, and that's gonna seal it. Back in comes the Gourgeist, even throwing on good charge attack timing. 2 Mudshots in the Fire Punch, knocking out the Gourgeist and taking the win. Picking up a very strong lead in the next match, Medicham into Diggersby. Diggersby not switching out as well, and are they on Quick Attack? That's an unusual choice. Medicham, oh no, waits for a turn, goes for Dynamic Punch, but the game does not visually update, and unfortunately, Dynamic Punch is going to be caught onto Jellicent. If there's any consolation prize, it's in the fact that Noctowl completely shuts down Jellicent. Jellicent can go for a Surf, Noctowl just laughs off that damage, and now gets to hit back hard with the Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball shielded up by the Jellicent. Opponent really trying to save this Pokemon, and unfortunately, due to the desync timers, they are going to be able to do just that. Surf is going to connect. There's the pivot out. In comes Diggersby, and the fact that they're on Quick Attack means that they actually have some fast move pressure here. Fire Punch is going to be shielded. There's the catch as back in comes Medicham. The timer is still very heavily misaligned, but Diggersby is going to be trapped on the field with the Medicham for just a little bit. Medicham over farming, firing off Dynamic Punch. Diggersby can tank one here. Opponent only has one Protect Shield remaining, and they're not going to use it here. Scorching Sands also will fail to take the knockout onto Medicham. That's going to be a pretty easy no shield for Medicham, as back in comes the Jellicent. Jellicent looking to get a pretty massive farm down. Medicham would love if this Ice Punch burned the switch timer in time to combo with the knockdown, and it does. This Sky Attack will easily take the knockout onto Jellicent. Jellicent puts up the shield, undertaps the Surf, but unfortunately this Charge Attack will not burn their switch timer. That means Knockdown has a very safe shield into a Sky Attack. Jellicent will finally get KO'd, and that is big. Jellicent finally off the field. In comes Diggersby, hoping for a Quick Attack down, but Knockdown is just simply too bulky. Knockdown hangs on, makes the Sky Attack, takes the knockout. In the back is a Ferrothorn, and I don't think Ferrothorn's gonna like seeing Fire Punch Diggersby. In comes Diggersby. Diggersby farming up. Oh my goodness, what a catch! That catch wasn't needed to win, but it is ferocious. Back in comes the Diggersby. Back-to-back Fire Punches are available. I think Diggersby was going to outpace there anyway, but that catch was just the icing on the cake. Oh my goodness. Predicting the perfect overfarm. Devastating catch. That is a good game. We move to the next match, picking up what I imagine should be a pretty nice lead, Medicham into Clodsire. Clodsire is so incredibly bulky that even though Medicham is consistently hitting for super effective damage, 2 Ice Punches plus the Psycho Cuts will actually fail to take the knockout. Instead, Medicham's probably going to have to throw 3 charge attacks. Clodsire hits back with the Earthquake. That does do some pretty significant damage, but the speed of Medicham is just absolutely relentless. Ice Punch number 2 crashes into Clodsire. Medicham goes for Dynamic Punch, and that actually covers for a catch attempt onto an Ice Resist, but no catch attempt comes through. Instead, Clodsire just gets KO'd. In comes Feraligatr. Feraligatr looking for a farm down, but it's not going to get there. Medicham barely able to hang on, making Dynamic Punch, and that damage is devastating. In comes Noctowl, insta-no shield. Noctowl will be able to survive the Hydro Cannon, no problem. The opponent has to rely on whatever they have in back, and clearly it was not something that wanted to see Noctowl, as they immediately resign the match. Medicham into Guzzlord is a pretty nice lead in the next match. Opponent tries for a catch, and they send in Corviknight. But unfortunately for Corviknight, they just get sent to jail as in comes Diggersby. This matchup is horrendous for Corviknight. Corviknight is not running an attack weight in this matchup, so they're only doing 1 damage per stand attack, and Diggersby has a truly massive HP pool. That means Diggersby can just take fast moves no problem, consistently spam out super effective Fire Punches, and even though Diggersby was down quite a bit of energy in this matchup, Diggersby just makes life absolutely miserable for the Corviknight. Corviknight already landed 1 payback, able to land a 2nd payback as well, and it just simply does not matter. Diggersby shakes off the damage, makes it to another Fire Punch, but Corviknight puts up the shield. Corviknight looking to try and make a play for swap, but maybe they lost count. Now they're going to have to give up both shields or they lose their Corviknight. At this point of the game, this deficit is unrecoverable. The opponent has lost switch advantage, they've lost shield advantage, they have a ton of energy on that Guzzlord, but it's just simply not going to matter. Medicham is loaded. In comes Medicham, anticipating the opponent would blind throw and losing charge attack priority. However, Sludge Bomb really doesn't do much to Medicham, whereas this Dynamic Punch will be deadly. Dynamic Punch will be shielded. Guzzlord gonna fire off more energy. Medicham still does not care. This game is going to be won or lost by 2-shield Noctowl. In the back, Volt Switch Fortress, not what Noctowl was hoping to see, but Noctowl still has 2 Protect Shields to hide behind, and that should be the key to victory. Noctowl can shield up the Rock Tomb, fire off the Shadow Ball. This is a debuff Shadow Ball. Noctowl is behind on energy in this matchup, but a debuff Shadow Ball with the wing attacks will still put the opponent pretty low. Switch timer will be coming up pretty soon. A switch out to reset a debuff could be nice. Medicham has a ton of energy. Noctowl pivots. There's a simul switch. Medicham into the Guzzlord, but disaster strikes. Guzzlord makes it to the Brutal Swing, wins charge attack priority, and that energy is gone. But Noctowl still has a ton of banked energy, and the debuff has been reset. Sky Attack is going to land. Noctowl gets the farm down, exits with the Shadow Ball loaded, and with the debuff reset, this should knock out the Fortress. That got a little bit scary at the end, but Fortress falls to Shadow Ball, and that's a good game. Picking up a pretty negative lead in the next match, Medicham into Wigglytuff. Medicham does win the 0 shield against Wigglytuff, but overall, typically not a fun matchup to play out of. If Wigglytuff ends up going down a shield in this matchup for Switch, then the Icy Wind hits for super effective on both of the back 2 Pokemon, which is definitely not a fun spot to be in. Wigglytuff will go for the Icy Wind, Medicham makes Dynamic Punch, and Dynamic Punch even at -1 will be deadly. Dynamic Punch is going to land, Wigglytuff gets KO'd, in comes a Volt Switch Fortress, and there's a very good answer available. In comes Diggersby, opponent pivots into a Toedscruel. What is this team? I don't know what that team is, but the opponent just immediately resigns the match. Picking up a terrible lead in the next match, Medicham into Tinkaton. One danger of grabbing teams from many years ago is a lot of the times there were meta threats that just simply didn't exist at that time, and Tinkaton is one of them. Not only did Tinkaton not have Gigaton Hammer back in 2022, Tinkaton wasn't even in the game at all. So unfortunately, this was just not a Pokemon that you had to worry about when it came to team building, and Tinkaton is very strong into both Medicham and the Noctowl. Medicham actually able to get some very nice damage onto the Tinkaton. In comes Noctowl just looking for a 1-shield wing attack down. Tinkaton full sends Gigaton Hammer, and then in comes Lapras. While Tinkaton is normally paired with water types, the hope was that it was going to be something like a Jellicent or a Feraligatr that Noctowl had a good matchup into. But unfortunately, Lapras has a very strong matchup into Noctowl. Shadow Ball does do quite a lot of damage, but the Ice Beam connecting is deadly. Noctowl barely able to hang on, gonna fire off Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball no shielded by the Lapras. Noctowl looks like it's getting Psywave down, and unfortunately it just does. In comes Medicham, in the back is a Shadow Talonflame, and unfortunately, there is just no way out of this one. Shadow Talonflame is up a shield, it's up energy. Diggersby went for the Hail Mary, a Scorching Sands debuff, but unfortunately did not get it. Shadow Talonflame now gets to ramp up with Flame Charge. Firestar gonna play it out to the bitter end, but unfortunately this Talonflame is just a runaway train. It is simply unstoppable. Fire Punch bait coming out from the Diggersby, hoping to try and get a shield. Does get the shield. In comes Medicham, but Medicham can't make a move. Back in comes Diggersby, able to make the Fire Punch, just trying to force the final shield from the opponent. They do give the final shield, but unfortunately the Incinerate does take the knockout. Tricky lead in the next match, Medicham into Malamar. Malamar has incredibly strong neutral play into this entire team. Medicham is able to inflict very nice damage with Dynamic Punch, but unfortunately has absolutely no fast attack pressure. Dynamic is going to land Malamar over farming. It looks like Malamar may have thrown on alignment there. And if they did, that means Medicham now wins the ones. Medicham goes for Dynamic, loses charge attack priority, and that is a little bit unfortunate. Medicham now forced to go down a shield. Malamar has to decide, is it worth double shielding for switch advantage? Dynamic Punch is going to land. They do not go for the double shield, and instead, they're just going to go for farm. Opponent sends in Primeape. Primeape not going to get that farm down as Dynamic Punch is reached. Switch advantage here is everything. Noctowl is going to do amazingly into Primeape. Medicham just sitting there menacingly on the screen. Dynamic Punch lands. Did the opponent just quit the app? I think they may have just quit. They didn't think that they were going to win by failing that farm down, and they have a Stunfisk in the back. So now we know they definitely would have lost anyway. I always find it a bit odd when trainers don't top left and they end up just quitting out of the app, because the top left button is right there. You could already be on to your next game. Or maybe they didn't end up top lefting. I guess maybe they just stopped tapping, because Scorching Sands is connecting at a regular rate. It's not pausing anymore. So I'm not sure quite what happened in that game, but either way, that game was going to be a win. Hopping to the final match, we've got same leads as last game, Medicham into Malamar. This time, it's the Shadow Malamar. Shadow Malamar going to take significantly more damage from Dynamic Punch, but also going to be dealing significantly more damage as well. Malamar no shields the first, going to return fire with the foul play, and Medicham has to decide, is it worth it trying to risk the CMP tie? Medicham goes for the CMP tie, but so does the Malamar. Instant no shield for the Medicham, just gonna let itself go. And now it's time for a massive farm down with Noctowl. Noctowl will be hit with a charge stack from the Shadow Malamar. Instant no shield. This is going to hurt. Foul play will connect. Noctowl gets huge farm. What does the opponent have in the back? That's not good. It's a Tinkaton answered with the Diggersby. Wait, it's a Zapdos in the back. This game might actually be winnable. Thundershocks are going to basically do no damage to the Diggersby, but what Zapdos does best is spamming out Drill Pecks with alarming speed. Even though the Thundershocks aren't doing any damage, the Drill Pecks will add up. Diggersby losing charge attack priority, going to go for Fire Punch number 2. This Fire Punch is going to be no shielded, and unfortunately the remaining Zapdos HP is going to be very awkward for Diggersby to try and farm down. Diggersby is going to go for it. Another Drill Peck comes out from the Zapdos. Zapdos already at a third Drill Peck. Zapdos just so much energy, and that's going to pressure a shield. In comes Tinkaton. Diggersby opting for the Fire Punch bait. Fire Punch does get the shield, but it feels like it could be too little, too late. Tinkaton just going to go straight for the Bulldoze. Diggersby so low. It does survive, but Bulldoze gets the debuff. Diggersby gets the Scorching Sands, but the opponent will be able to double shield, and it's going to be Noctowl versus the World. Scorching Sands does get an attack drop as in comes Noctowl. Noctowl, Shadow Ball, nice damage onto the Tinkaton. Tinkaton just going to go straight Bulldoze. They're fishing for the debuff. Noctowl puts up the shield. Bulldoze does get the debuff. Noctowl going to go for the Shadow Ball, but unfortunately, this is not going to be enough to secure the KO. Tinkaton racing to the Gigaton Hammer, but it will not get there. Noctowl makes the Sky Attack. This will take the knockout. Noctowl is Bulldoze debuffed. In comes Diggersby to reset the debuff. It's going to be a race. Wing Attack versus Thunder Shock, and Noctowl gets the Wing Attack down, and somehow, against all odds, takes the win. Big congratulations to Firestar for making it to Legend, and making it to Legend with a classic team. I've been playing this game for many seasons, so it was very cool to see this legendary team from the past be piloted to some pretty nice results. Now, is this a team that I would recommend for everyone to try when it comes to legend pushing? I would probably lean towards no. I think this team's success, more particularly being able to pilot Noctowl, is more of an indication of Firestar's skill rather than Noctowl being an incredible Pokemon. Noctowl has been buffed, but it would really love if it had faster pacing. The fact that its cheapest charge attack is Sky Attack and Shadow Ball really puts it in an awkward spot where even though it's very bulky, it's consistently getting outpaced by things. But I think it's very cool that in a season where all three of these Pokemon were buffed again, obviously to varying degrees of success. I would say the Diggersby and the Medicham buffs were very successful, as Diggersby won a regional. I believe Medicham, if it didn't win a regional, then it's gotten very close to winning a regional. Actually, no, it did win a regional. I'm pretty sure it was on Palash's team. So I'm pretty sure both Diggersby and Medicham have now won regionals. It's cool to see one of these classic teams come back and have results. And Noctowl, man, if they really want to do Noctowl justice and bring it back, it would need a cheaper move than the Sky Attack. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you have not. And an extra special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated, so thank you guys so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.